All right, this is now a Fox News alert breaking just moments ago. Our own Catherine Herridge reporting that the corrupt FBI lawyer, Lisa Page, now will in fact not comply with the subpoena and will not be testifying before a closed-door session of Congress tomorrow, which she said up until about an hour ago she would be attending. Here with reaction, author of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's America, The Truth About America's Great Comeback. And he is also the executive producer of The First American, which is now available on Amazon Prime Video. Former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich is with us. She is now citing, if I may, Mr. Speaker, the idea that, in fact, congressional source said that they did expect her, but in fact she's claiming that she didn't get the materials from Congress that she thought she would have.
Well, I mean, who knows what the deal is here? Increasingly, these guys sound like the old mafia bosses who used to show up for the Kefauver hearings many, many years ago in the early days of television, and they would sit there and they would plead the fifth. And for the country at large, it was a huge spectacle, and it kind of gave you the signals who's guilty. You're discovering that at the very senior levels of the FBI, and I believe of the Justice Department under Obama, you had a level of corruption that makes it very dangerous for them to show up and to actually testify. And so I think their lawyers, legitimately under our system, are saying to them, to protect yourself, you cannot go under oath and start talking about this stuff, or you're going to either going to reveal information that will put you in jail, or you're going to end up committing perjury. And so I think you're seeing a real example. I mean, it sounds to me like if they didn't have a whole lot to hide, they wouldn't be hiding. And what we're seeing is people who I think have a lot to hide.
Well, listen, I would actually say, and I said this about the FBI Director James Comey, whoever allowed him to write that book, who was his attorney, and go on that book tour, I think did not serve him particularly well. And I reminded him at the time he had the right to remain silent. Lisa Page was the top attorney for Andrew McCabe, the deputy director of the FBI, and the boyfriend of Peter Strzok, who's at the heart of all of this. She's involved in the text messages. We will stop him, insurance policy, calling Trump every name in the book, etc. I honestly feel when you think of the ramifications and how profound it is that they wanted to literally alter a presidential election, in a way, I don't think I would allow her to testify.
Look, I think you're faced with what is increasingly obvious as a bureaucratic coup d'etat, where they literally were trying to prop up Secretary Clinton no matter how guilty she was, and they were trying to find some device to block Donald Trump no matter how innocent he was. And I think this is, I mean, if you want to see evidence that there is a deep state, all you have to do is follow this couple, all of their various tweets and text messages, and you begin to realize there was something profoundly wrong going on.
Yeah. Well, obviously there really is, because also Peter Strzok was the one writing the exoneration. He's the one that replaced gross negligence with extreme carelessness. He's the one that interviewed Michael Flynn. He didn't think Michael Flynn was lying. He interviewed Hillary Clinton. 3 days later, she was exonerated, but he had been building the exoneration case since May. This happened in July. On top of that, he was at the heart of the start of what is the phony Russia case. This guy was up to his eyeballs in every single solitary thing leading up to this election, with the desire to rush the Russia investigation so that they could get Trump. This is about impacting an election.
Look, I think for everyday common sense non-lawyers, and I'm not a lawyer, all you have to do is ask yourself the following picture. Paul Manafort, who has not been convicted yet of anything, is apparently spending 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Meanwhile, every single person in the Clinton team, no matter what they've done, has basically been ignored, exonerated, allowed to go free. Now, I mean, if you want to see how sick the system is, look at the way they're treating Paul Manafort, and look at the way they treated Hillary's aides, including the guy who took a hammer to break up the smartphones and took bleach bit to destroy memory of the computers and say to yourself, how come all these people had nothing done to them, and without even being convicted, Paul Manafort is in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day? And it tells you we have a very sick system.
A 2005 tax case. And remember what the judge said, Judge Ellis III, that they're putting the screws to Manafort for the purpose that he will sing or compose, and that the idea is to use him to either prosecute or impeach Donald Trump. The judge said that in the case. Let me move on. You see the left's reaction. Fill in the blank. They had it all prepared against whoever the president chose. Your reaction to that, and of course the president's selection. This is one of the most important decisions any president will make.
Look, I'm going to go out on a limb tonight. I believe that Judge Kavanaugh was so impressive last night that his introduction by the president, his own speech, the very appearance of his two daughters and his wife and his mother and his father, I believe that this is such a remarkable and easily defendable person. I'm just going to go out tonight and say I believe at least 3 Democrats are going to ignore the suggestion of the Democratic whip, Dick Durbin, that they ought to commit suicide and vote no, and they're going to vote yes. And I think you're going to see a real split between the radical extremist wing of the Democratic Party and people who believe that the system really should work and that they really do want to find a way to work in the system.
The very reliable Chuck Schumer votes of Claire McCaskill and Nelson